Thank you, Reverend Mary. Good morning again, everybody.
Good morning.
And Happy New Year. So, turning over a new leaf. Turn over a new leaf. Declutter, transform, renew. That's the tagline of my company, which is New Leaf Organizing. And to turn over a new leaf, we're turning over the appearance. We're letting go of the appearance. And we're going to the truth. And as we understand it, our interpretation of the truth. And as we deepen our knowing of the truth, the one truth, which is Spirit, which is God, always says yes to us. So we turn over a new leaf, and we're going to go, yeah, okay, I am going to do this. I'm going to turn over a new leaf. Today, this is the day I'm going to turn over a new leaf. And then the dog pees on my carpet, for real, in front of Reverend Martha Topol, also for real. Okay, wait for it. Christmas afternoon. For real. And, and I laugh because Reverend Martha is so proper, and she was so cool about it. And I'd never seen my dog pee on our carpet before, but he was totally kerfluxed, as Dr. Moore would say, because he didn't understand why there was all this activity going on in our house. And so reality sets in. And it's like, okay, now what? And then we go, we freak out. I can't do this. I can't change. Oh my gosh. And it's the same old. So we say, okay, it's okay for the same. It's kind of okay. What's one more year? What's one more year? It's just our lives. It's our lives. Time equals our life. It equals our life. So one short more year of saying, it's okay, when it isn't, is our life. So what has to happen? We have to be ready. We have to be ready to turn over a new leaf. So what does that look like, and what does that mean? Well, readiness takes many forms and many expressions. It can be healthy denial, which is an example I will give real quickly, is my husband and I have a good friend, and he went in for a colonoscopy about 1.5 years ago and came out being told, you have cancer, and we don't know what stage it is, and then it's stage 4, and then it's also in your liver, and then he was like, oh my God. And then he refused. He doesn't practice this teaching. He refused to go online. He refused to study. He did everything the doctors said. He kind of heard glimmers of, he goes like, okay, you can't operate, okay, da-da-da. So, but he says today, now, I was in healthy denial. I felt great. My body felt great. So he did everything the doctor said, went through the chemo, could then have an operation, did the rest of what he was supposed to do, and now, 1.5 years later, he says, it's all about, I felt great. I was in healthy denial. And now it's like, bye-bye, go live a great, long, good life. Bye-bye. And they mean it. And that's the one law, the law of mind in action. He would never call it that. That's the one law saying to him, or saying through him, saying yes. It's his subconscious saying yes. He didn't believe he had cancer, so his subconscious said yes. So he was ready to be healthy via healthy denial. Because the law doesn't choose who to say yes to because you believe in the law of mind in action, or because you're a good this or a good that. It says yes to what we believe in our hearts, what we believe in our gut, what we actually really feel deep in our soul. So that's one form of readiness. Another form of readiness is overwhelm, total overwhelm, where our hearts beat fast, where we look at the mess, whether it's internal, external, or both, and we just can't breathe. Anybody else ever been there? I've been there. And we do it anyway. Little steps, they might not be the right step, but we do a step. Or it might be depression. Like, oh man, I just can't do this right now. I can't face this. It is just too emotional, not going to happen. And somehow, some way, we do something. We're just so tired of this emotional tired that we take a step. Or it may be, I'm ready. I am ready now. And we don't really remember how we got there, but somehow, some way, we get to, I'm ready. And we step out and we take a step, and it's always, or not always, in my world, it's always a mini step. Some people make big, bold steps. I'm one of those that tends to take a lot of mini steps. And by taking these steps, we begin to move into the uncharted, the unknown territories of our life, of our living. And where does that all begin? Where does everything I just said begin? It all begins in mind. We change our thinking. We organize our thinking in a new way for a new outcome, even though it could just be such a sliver of an outcome. That's the whisper of the demonstration. And we're all going to make messes, and we make big messes, and we make small messes. And I have to say, I made a mess this year in October. I made a big mess. And I have a dear, dear friend who's hardly spoken to me since. This is for real. No, this is real. This is real. We've spoken, but hardly, since October. And if I could do a do-over for that afternoon and evening, oh boy, I would do a do-over. And what came of that is I was able to unpack and extract the forgiveness and the jewels. So every mess in the middle of it has a jewel. But guess what? To turn over a new leaf, that leaf is not going to turn itself. Right? We have to think the new thought, move the new action, change the habit. And where does it begin? It always begins in our hearts and in our minds. We think new thoughts, and in our hearts, we forgive ourselves. And we move forward. And when we do this, when we turn over the leaf, When we do that, we transform our souls. That's what we're doing. We are transforming our souls. And by transforming our souls, we're transforming and renewing our lives. And we do it every day by choosing and accepting a new thought and a new action. So Happy New Year, everyone. May 2019 bring each and every one of you and each and every one of us blessings beyond measure. May our hearts, each and every heart of each of us in this room, may our hearts be filled with a joy that we have never before witnessed or understood. And may we, each and every one of us this coming year, unify our souls with the one, and in doing so, really recognize, really see in one another's eyes that we are one. Happy New Year, and thank you. So I'm going to welcome up our next and second speaker, and she is the director of our School of Leadership, which is our ministerial school, and she is a very faithful staff minister here and does so much for all of us. So please join me in a round of applause for Reverend Catherine McKinney.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. And welcome that we've all come here for us to share this idea of turning a leaf. I think of it as change. Isn't it interesting how, when it's time to get out a new calendar, that we think of change? And we think of this concept, and our culture may have prepared us for it, that it's time to think of things that we want to change. And so, in explaining how I got to this place, I'm going to share with you that a few months ago, I was inspired to choose my word for 2019. And that word, my word, is faith. And so how I got to that word is what I'm going to talk about today. A few months ago, I continued a study that I have done for a number of years of Emma Curtis Hopkins. And this one was some of her lessons that are found in High Mysticism. The very first lesson is about returning to the one, that one power, that one presence, that recognition, that creative force that is always present, and knowing that that presence is there for us. She calls it repent, but it is a return to that one power. And she has as the spiritual practice for the week that we were studying that first lesson, that we look up. We look up for 10 minutes a day with no agenda. It's not a meditation. It's looking up. Now, the idea is that we see with our spiritual eye, we see more than what we see physically. But we put interpretations on that. And when we don't like what we're seeing, we're advised to change the direction in which we look. And so she's saying, look up. And she's meaning to that higher consciousness. Don't look at the level of the situation, the conditions that we see, but we look up to the higher consciousness. And it's inspired by the idea in Psalms, I will lift mine eyes into the hills from whence cometh my help. And we're reminded, if you've read much in the New Testament, when they would talk about Jesus and the miracles, they would first say, and he looked up. So for the week, we spend 10 minutes looking up. So we move into this second lesson, and we continue to recognize that power within us, seeing that power that is there for us. This is the idea that we are waiting now for this mystical download, that dissolving grace that moves into your life and simply eases your way with grace and ease. So we're invited to look up, and this time there are affirmations, so to speak, that she offers that you say, along with the looking up. Steadfastly facing thee, there is no evil in my path. And for Emma Curtis Hopkins, when she speaks of evil, she is simply speaking of separation from yourself and God. In Reverend Mary's prayer and in Reverend Louisa's lesson, there was talk about being one and not having that separation. There is no evil in my path. Steadfastly facing thee, there is no lack, there is no limitation, there's no deprivation, there's no loss. Steadfastly facing thee, there is no harm to me. There is no power that can hurt me. And there are more. I didn't always remember every one of them, but I said one or made them up for my 10 minutes, and I said those. And we were told that things can come into your life and things will just resolve themselves, and I had that experience. There was a situation, it wasn't complicated, it wasn't serious, but as I contemplated what to do, I wasn't sure, and it just went away. It just resolved itself. The dissolving grace. The third lesson is about surrender. And you understand, in spiritual surrender, you're not talking about giving up. Surrender is more allowing a greater power to be within you. Ernest Holmes says, you may have heard, there's a power in the universe greater than I am, and I can use it. That greater than I am is what we are surrendering to, and allowing not this thing that is within me to drive my life, but allowing the greater idea within me. Surrender to that spirit and empty myself of all of the other business and busyness and allow spirit to come in. So in this third lesson week, we continued with the same practice, looking up for 10 minutes and saying the affirmations. And so part of what happens in this surrender is that there is a humility that develops as you sit before this power, this looking up. And that readies you for the fourth lesson. And the fourth lesson is faith. And what it does is it helps establish a relationship with the other principles that you've practiced for weeks. Because faith, with developing that humility before the power, is to develop the courage to have the faith, to plow through whatever is going on in the conditions, and to have the courage to put the doubt at bay. Doubt has a way of coming in. We can have great intentions, wonderful faith, and then doubt comes in. What if it doesn't? And what if I? And maybe it won't. But with faith, having the courage to have the faith, to stay in that space, then we move into another place where we can command the law. Emma uses as her inspiration for commanding the law Jesus' great commandment, which is the Lord's Prayer. She puts in that chapter her own words for that commandment. And in my class, we use slightly different words, perhaps they're more science of mind, as part of our practice. And so what we did for the next week was to say this version of the Lord's Prayer 15 times every day. 15 times because at Lourdes, the pilgrims go to the waters and say the Lord's Prayer 15 times. So I'm going to share with you the version of the Lord's Prayer that we did. And I invite you, if you know the words to the Lord's Prayer, that you say them along as you hear this version. Father, Mother, God within me, holy is your name. Your kingdom is here. Your will is done within me. Give me this day everything I need. Forgive my lack of confidence to command the law. Don't let me be tempted by appearances. Don't let me believe in evil. For you are the realm of power and glory within me forever. For me, this was a very powerful lesson. And I have continued to do that 15 times every day, sometimes more, definitely more today. It is powerful, and it has to do with not the words, but it's what it invokes within you, because it is within you. Your will is done within me. Give me this day everything I need. And I find that throughout the day, if there's some situation that comes up, I very often say, give me this day everything I need. For me, it has been wonderful. So I am inviting you, whatever it is, whatever leaf you want to turn over, however you want to be different, I invite you to consider changing yourself for the better, whatever that looks like, and allow the spiritual downloads to come to you, taking the time to listen and to move into that space, because that is how we change for the better. We're inspired by that spirit within us that inspires our way to go, our things to do, our things to say, those that are each belong to us. And so as you do that, as you are inspired to change for the better, what I am saying is that you can be happier, more successful in all aspects of your life, more abundant in ways you cannot imagine, and simply be at peace in this world. So I'm asking you now, are you ready to make a change? Yes. So I invite you to repeat with me. I am ready to change my life for the better. I know that I have everything I need. And I say, give me this day everything I need. Create in me a clean heart. And I give thanks to God within for all the glory. And so it is. Thank you. Thank you so much.